Are in an Allison Wonderland. You like that? You
What?
like that? Allison Wonderland? Most expensive goalkeeper transfer of all time sees the Brazilian keeper moving from Roma to Liverpool for 67 million. Allison joining from Roma, who brought him for just £7 million 2 summers ago, saved 80% of the shots he faced in Serie A, our highest percentage in the league. The 25-year-old, of course, coming off an excellent World Cup for Brazil. So, let's start with Mr. Nichols, shall we? You a happy camper? Is this the missing piece for Jurgen Klopp?
Am I a happy camper? Are you serious?
I'm curious.
Absolutely fantastic news.
Just how happy are you?
Oh my goodness! You know, I've been ever since I heard that they was going to sign him. I'm trying to think to myself, okay, what can this guy not do? I can't come up with anything. He saves shots, he's good with his feet, he commands his area, he's vocal. Come on, can somebody please help me here? What can this guy not do? Because I don't really see a flaw.
Well, maybe we'll get some answers to that question, because Paolo Baldini is also with us. Paolo, welcome back to the show. I know you have spent a lot of time watching Allison in his couple of years with Roma. He was only really a starter this year, wasn't he? What sort of goalkeeper are Liverpool getting?
An adventurous keeper. He says himself that he models his game on Manuel Neuer, so he's very much in that sweeper keeper mould that is so fashionable nowadays, and he does it very well. I mean, you think about some of the sort of highlight reel moments that he's had at Roma in the last season. There was one game against Udinese where he left Stipe Perica literally on his bum with a little shimmy on the edge of the box. But actually, the moments that stood out for me were the ones against Inter in particular, away at San Siro, where Roma came away with a draw. And you're up against Mauro Icardi, who's one of the great penalty box strikers in all of world football at the moment. And Edison consistently anticipated the balls that Inter were trying to play over the top to him, getting out to the edge of his area. At one point, he was literally heading the ball away from Icardi in the D of his own penalty area. So he'd come that far out, knowing he was the last man. But that was a really effective way of, again, stopping the ball from getting to Icardi's feet inside the box. It wound up earning Roma a really important result.
If I'm a part of a back four, and I think the guy behind me is fantastic, it makes it so much easier to play. You know, every time recently the ball goes in behind the back four of Liverpool, everybody is doing this. What's going to happen? When you have a guy like Allison behind you,
well at
you
set
don't
plays.
even think about it. It doesn't even enter your head.
Liverpool have had a lot of problems at set plays over the last couple of years. Now Allison, you'd hope, would be commanding of his up to the penalty spot, be catching things. End of the problem.
Well, you add Allison signing to that of Naby Keita, Fabinho, Shaqiri. What sort of starting 11 might Jurgen Klopp be looking at the start of the year?
I think right now, all things considered, this is the lineup that I would certainly start with. I think you've got to play Alexander-Arnold at right back. He's getting better every time the kid steps on the field. You could play Fabinho there, but at the same time, I think Fabinho's far better in the middle of the park, where you're going to have Fabinho and Henderson more defensive than Keita. Keita will definitely try and get forward, as Wijnaldum did when he was playing. I think for the likes of Milner, it's a bit part. It's a coming off the bench, and of course the front three. You can't argue with the front three.
When you look at that starting 11, is that starting 11 going to challenge Manchester City?
Yeah,
for the title?
I think they are. They're the nearest challengers at the moment. I think.
They are?
I think they're
above United.
I think they're going to be just above United. That leaves a lot of players. I think they would rotate their squad, because you talked about Wijnaldum. I think he had an excellent couple of seasons so far. I think he's a good player. He will come into the side occasionally. Milner, I don't think is finished, but he won't play quite so often. When they want a game where they want to get somebody to get their foot in and close down, he'll come into the side as well. Oxlade-Chamberlain, it doesn't look as though he's going to be fit for most of the season. I think that's a big blow, because he gives them something different. But I think they're a good side now, Liverpool, and I think last season's run in the Champions League will give them that.
It is indeed a lot of money to spend for a goalkeeper, the world record fee being shattered. Jurgen Klopp, the man who spent it. I want to take you back a couple of years to what he said in June of 2016 on spending up. Other clubs can go out and spend more money. This was after Paul Pogba had signed for Manchester United. Other clubs can collect top players. I want to do it differently. I would even do it differently if I could spend that money. Well, that was 2 years ago.
I think, yeah, but listen, what's Jurgen Klopp going to do when he has money available? Is he going to turn around and say, "Oh, I can't do it because,"
well, he said he'd do it
because 2 years ago I said I'd do it differently? No,
I don't want that player.
The combination of the owners and Klopp should be congratulated for what they've done. because they've bided their time. They've built some money up over the last 2 or 3 seasons, so that now they have the money available that he can go and spend. And he's not going and spend it on like a Juventus go and get Ronaldo at 33. These are kids in their early 20s that are going to be at Liverpool for a decade. It's a lot of money, yes, but tell you what, it's money well spent.
Paolo, though, it's one of those where you imagine if Jose Mourinho had gone out and spent this money on a goalkeeper, there might have been a bit of a different reaction.
Sure, of course. I mean, I always find myself, and I think I've said this with you guys before, in a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a bind over these financial ones, because I can see that it feels like a big jump, and the numbers in pure terms are extraordinary for Roma, certainly making the sale on a player who, as already mentioned, didn't even start in his first season at the club, was a backup to Wojciech Szczesny. But at the same time, the numbers only matter as much as they do to the club that can afford them, and the Premier League revenues have gone up so much. Liverpool have accessed additional revenues by making a run all the way to the Champions League final. You know, the numbers are all notional in the end. It only matters if that money is used to further the improvement of your team. And if it is, and if the men in the finance department say it's okay, then I guess it's okay.
Shaka Hislop out here with me in LA ahead of the ICC, where Liverpool will actually be participating, but that's where we're focusing on now. Allison to Liverpool, Shaka. We know that the goalkeeping position is something that Liverpool has been trying to address for some time now. Is this the proper fit?
I think so. Allison has established himself, would go a long way to making Liverpool genuine title contenders. Now, a lot can be made of the money and the transfer fee and the records, etc., etc., but when you look at teams who've spent money, record fees and goalkeepers, they almost always get a return on their investment. You can look at Pickford to Everton. I think he's gone up in value considerably. You can look at De Gea to Manchester United. You can go even further back and look at when Juventus broke the transfer record some 10 times over to sign Gigi Buffon for some 32 million at the time. And look at how well that has turned out for them over the years. The right player, regardless of the price, I think pays dividends. This is a good bit of business for Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp.
Well, you spoke about increasing and helping your stock. That's something that obviously Simon Mignolet and Lars Karius have not done.
Of the Champions League, I believe that Simon Mignolet sees himself as a number 1 and won't be happy just sitting and playing as a number 2. Now, whether he feels so, whether he's happy to stay at Liverpool or he wants first team action, that's a decision for him to make, and one that he will do shortly, because make no mistakes about it, he's not going to displace Allison from between the Liverpool sticks. So will we see a move for another goalkeeper who maybe sees himself as a number 2 and can fill in and do so with some consistency? Quite possibly. I think that all rests on Simon Mignolet, because as much as Karius has figured for Jurgen Klopp in the latter stages of last season, I just don't see how he makes his way back, not just as a starter, but even as a serious number 2.
All right, thanks so much to Shaka Hislop. We'll continue tracking this story for every detail right here at ESPN FC.
You know, to win the World Cup can only be a positive thing. It's difficult to say that to win the World Cup is not good for a player's career, and I hope that he understands why he was very good. About his performance level and his contribution to a winning team is for him to understand why he was so good, especially in the second part of the competition.
Steve, Jose Mourinho, Paul Pogba, season 3. You think it'd be a different show?
Did I miss something? Did he smile at any stage during?
Oh, you just don't like him, do you? Because it's Manchester United. No, come on, Steve.
Why is he so guarded already? I mean, really, you know, this Pogba thing. Why doesn't he just laugh it off and say the guy was fantastic and we want the same sort of performances? I said it has to go deep and serious and.
You'd say it's a little dig, wouldn't you, at Paul Pogba? He needs to realise why he was so good, why he played so well, why he's been part of a World Cup winning. So he's almost saying that when he was playing for Manchester United, he wasn't disciplined enough. He didn't do enough defending. They're the things he's trying to suggest in that comment there.
Is that what you took from it, Brian?
For sure. Well, it's well documented, you know, that they had some issues with him, and he even sat him, for that matter. But the The thing that Pogba always stands out to me is his ability to break lines, not just with the pass, but if he understood that when he has a defender on him, he gets past that defender, and then when the second defender comes in, he doesn't need to beat that defender. Now he's unsettled and changed the shape of the other team. And then he used the pass. And he did that with France, especially in the last two games.
And it brings up the point. Do you think there's any chance Paul Pogba doesn't understand why he was so good for France? I mean, Mourinho suggesting perhaps he doesn't.
No, listen. You know the mark of the best players? When they finish the game, they know whether they've played well or not, and they know whether they've done the job or not. Now, maybe there's a bit of a communication problem between him and Mourinho, what Mourinho wants from him. But I think Pogba knows exactly what suits him best, and it just depends on whether Mourinho's going to let him do that in the Man United jersey.
You know, Shaka Hislop loves to trail Jose Mourinho wherever he goes around the globe. Shaka is there. Shaka is in LA. What did you make of his words at his first press conference of the year, Shaka?
Yeah, I'm not too sure how I got this gig. But saying that, I'm with Jose Mourinho. I understand the criticism of Paul Pogba, and it's what we've been seeing for quite some time. And I'll probably remain to be as critical of Jose Mourinho as I always was. But at the same time, he's right. He asked Paul Pogba to do and to play a role similar to Deschamps did with France. He struggled 2 years ago at the Euros, has been struggling with Manchester United and Jose Mourinho doing exactly the same thing. And as I was saying earlier in the week, hopefully his performances in the knockout stages of the tournament, winning the World Cup, playing a role that he's been asked to do for both club and country for the last couple of years, doesn't mean that he can't enjoy his football, doesn't mean that he can't be successful. If he can get Paul Pogba to do that, to play that role for him with Manchester United, I think it makes Manchester United under Jose Mourinho all the better. Doesn't take away from the fact that Jose Mourinho and Manchester United will continue to be pragmatic, for want of a better term, and that's how they're going to continue doing things, at least for the foreseeable future. That's what I anticipate, and if Paul Pogba is to stay there and play that role, he's got to fit in, as he did with Deschamps.
The dominoes start to fall. We wonder what the knock-on effect will be. Does his arrival mean a possible departure for Gonzalo Higuain, in your mind? Could he reunite with Sarri at Chelsea?
I'd be stunned if Higuain doesn't go this summer, to be absolutely honest with you. I don't see how you can combine them that easily into a strike partnership. Juventus do probably need to raise at least some money for how much they're spending on this deal. And it's also probably not the last opportunity you got to sell Higuain for a price like this, but he is past 30. He is a player whose value is probably only going to diminish from here. So it's a good window to sell him while he's still at the top of his game. And he has a very good relationship with Maurizio Sarri. They did get on very well when they were in Naples, and there have been fond words exchanged since then. So it's certainly a natural opportunity to explore to try and sell him to Chelsea. And from the player's point of view, I can also imagine him not wanting to find out whether being in Ronaldo's shadow is going to be as it was at Real Madrid.
Brian, if that does indeed happen, Gonzalo Higuain at Chelsea, do you like it? Good fit?
I do like it. You know, the question then is, can you keep Eden Hazard? That part is very important. But I think he would enjoy it in the standpoint that he would be the main focal point of that attack. And everywhere Higuain is gone, where he's been the main focal point, he's scored goals. And so certainly last year, not so much with Juventus, but still getting the job done. I still think he has a lot to offer. And really, he is a true goal scorer. He's not your player that's going to hold the ball up. Yeah. Whether or not that part gets solved by Chelsea because they needed it last year, that's a different question. But I just think Higuain's gone from my point of view because he wants to be the main person, the main man to score goals.
When he played under Benitez at Napoli, Higuain, he looked lazy, he looked as though he was slightly out of condition at times, he didn't make enough runs, he still scored goals. When Sarri came to Napoli, he was a totally changed player. I don't know what Sarri and the relationship they had together, but suddenly he was making great runs, he looked as though he could score every time he got the ball. So I think it's a good partnership. What happens to Olivier Giroud and Morata? They're the other two players that are at Chelsea. Olivier Giroud, a World Cup winner. Will he be ousted straight away?
Peter, of all the laws on the book, this is clearly the most subjective, isn't it? You're basically asking referees to judge intent. Does it need amending in any way, shape or form, the handball law as it stands?
Well, OK, my opinion is that IFAB, after the World Cup, will have a look at the laws, including this particular element of Law 12, and at their next meeting, they'll probably propose some slight changes to it. I think that handball is the law at the moment that is very, very subjective and probably needs just closing down a little bit. So watch this space, and I think we'll see some amendments to that law in the not-too-distant future.
Excellent segue, Peter. You mentioned IFAB, and let's go back out to Shaka Hislop, who's with us in LA, lapping up the sunshine, but also looking forward to future board meetings with IFAB, I imagine. Shaka, I know you are. I'm sure handball's going to be up for discussion, isn't it?
Yeah, it will be, and has been for quite some time. The handball law is one that we've kind of discussed and trying to find the right wording on before it comes back out to the advisory panels and then kicked upstairs to the IFOD board proper for approval or denial or whichever way they decide to swing on that one. But yes, quite clearly, the law as written, if interpreted strictly, still allows for far too many grey areas.
Mm. Well, we imagine it's going to be very high on the agenda list at the next IFAB meeting.
Well, he can change it, can't he?
Well,
He's in charge.
He has the
Mind you, you're asking someone that handled the ball all the time. Or tried to handle it anyway.
Wait. No. Hold on. Wait a minute. No. Wait. No, I cannot change it, Stuart.
You said you could do anything, Shaka.
Stuart. I can't.
You said you could do anything, Shaka.
Even so, I was answering Adrian's question. Even so, I'm with Steve and Brian on this. I thought it was a handball. I thought Perisic goes up and then comes down, and I thought, though the position of the hand maybe wasn't a natural, he brought it down a little bit quickly, in my opinion. And in talking about the positioning and the distance the ball travelled, Brian makes a good point. Yes, he's only a couple of inches off the back of Matuidi, but Matuidi doesn't touch it. The ball comes an awfully long way for it to still strike him and then offer him the excuse, well, it just missed Matuidi, or you were just behind his back. I also think the other part of this is there's a lot of assumption on what the referee went back to look at after the initial look. Maybe, and I'm just offering a counterpoint here, maybe he has a look at the video, thinks it's a penalty, but wants to make sure, because he doesn't really want to change his mind. It's a World Cup final, it's 1-1, he doesn't want to give a penalty unless he absolutely has to, unless the evidence is overwhelmingly compelling. He sees it, he thinks so, and then just wants to go back and have another look just to make sure it is compelling. And I think it was. I'm with the majority on this one. I know it's a slim majority, but I'm with the majority.
Slim indeed. Peter, let's go back out to you. How would you, if you were on that IFAB advisory panel with the high and mighty and with Shaka, how would you change the wording to clear this up for everyone?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think, first of all, you need to remove that word deliberate, because that word, as Steve said, a lot of people hide behind that, including me at times. I think that word deliberate, because how can you read into someone's mindset the fact that that person has deliberately attempted to handle the ball? So remove that and probably look at adding some area around the body that it may hit. So if your hand is in parallel to your body, then it's not a handball. If it's away from the body, then it is a handball. So therefore, you're making it almost black and white. You know, that's not a handball, that is a handball. Now, you could argue that, you know, how far out do you go with your arms? That's subjective again. So if you keep it narrow, then we'll get somewhere.
Maybe we
is that workable?
Oh, for sure. I was going to make it. Maybe we follow the YMCA dance. So, no, seriously, I think that makes perfect sense. And you see, you know, people in walls nowadays covering part of their chest and covering part.
What, and in the run of play?
Yeah,
hands behind back.
I think that sounds like
very doable. But that's unnatural. To go and close the ball down, put your hands behind your back, that's an unnatural thing to do. So if you watch any picture of anybody running and slowing down, they'll always have their hands out by their side. Right. That's a natural way you try and balance yourself. So if you say that you've got your hands out by the side and the ball hits you on the hand from 3 or 4 yards away, that cannot be handball.
Lots of talk about VAR and the use of it in the World Cup, the real high-profile rollout for VAR, if you will. What was your assessment of it overall in Russia?
Adrian, I thought it was magnificent. And I'd use that word loosely. I thought the introduction of VAR at the World Cup was done with a little bit of trepidation, really, but when it came to it, they got things right. They got things right that they wouldn't have normally got. I think the figures off the top of my head was there was 20 or so formal reviews in the whole of the 64 games. of those 20 reviews, 17 were changed, and there was game-changing decisions made on the strength of using VAR. They got the decisions right, exactly what we wanted. Many high-profile ones, and again, off the top of my head, I can think of the Spanish equaliser against Morocco that was originally ruled offside, that was given. You know, classic use of VAR there. The German goal, the Korean goal against Germany, when the US referee Geiger got involved there, and overall that it was a German foot that passed the ball back. So those types of incidents there made for a great World Cup, and I thought VAR came of age.
Stevie, were you
100%.
won over?
Absolutely.
As someone who enjoys technology in general? But...
Absolutely, yeah. No, I try to be clever.
Trying.
Do you know what? I was looking forward to today because Thomas wasn't on. And he tries to be clever all the time.
I've got a voice in my ear.
Listen, I've got to say, before, as soon as it was introduced, I thought it was a fantastic idea.
Yeah.
The worry I had were the people implementing it, the people that were going to be using it and making up the decisions. But I'll tell you what, I'm with Peter. I thought it was fantastic.
And you have to give credit to these referees because a lot of them hadn't done it in their leagues. They hadn't used it at all in their own leagues.
Yep.
Peter, finally, you know, VAR was, as you said, a big success in Russia. So are the Premier League going to suffer by not having it implemented this year? Is that a big mistake, do you think?
Well, I don't think it's a big mistake. I think the chairman of the league took their decision before the World Cup. I think the majority of those chairmen will probably sit down now as August approaches and the new start of the Premier League season and probably think maybe it was the time. But as Steve said, some of the implementation aspects from the Premier League are not there yet. You know, the officials are not ready for it yet. So once those officials have gone through the experience of some training and education, the technology's there, I think the FA Premier League will bring it in straight away.
After those high-profile incidents, the Germany game, the Spain game, we talked about it. Is it going to be... Are you going to feel the absence of it, do you think, in the Premier League?
A little bit, because I think it's stopped diving to a certain degree. I think we've got more right decisions. Players now want to run with the ball in the box because they know if they get brought down, they're going to get a penalty because it's going to go to VAR and it'll be proved that it's a penalty. I think we'll probably see better defending. People won't be diving in the box. We won't see wrestling at set plays because that's all being taken care of, or should be taken care of. So if it's not in the Premier League, it's going to be missed.
Yeah, I agree with Stu, especially the holding inside the penalty area for free kicks.
Spoken like a forward.
Exactly. Listen, I would have loved that. But you saw from the first games in each round, there was so much holding. There was plenty of times they could use VAR to bring it back. But those players then saw that afterwards and realized, wait a second, that could have been pulled off. So there was a lot less grappling. There was a lot less holding. And it just makes for a better game. And I think that's why we saw so many free kick goals. We saw so many headed balls that we didn't normally see.
Peter, it seems to be only a matter of time before it does come in. Maybe that's when we'll see you in the full referee's uniform. We'll get you then when the Premier League brings it in.
Yeah, OK. You never know.
Have you seen him in shorts lately? It's not a good sight, let me tell you.
We're here at UCLA, and look who I managed to find. Brian Robson, a man who really and truly needs no introduction in the world of football. Manchester United, of course, gearing up for their pre-season and the ICC tournament. How's it been going so far, Brian?
Very good. Weather conditions are great. The facilities are really good. So pre-season training's going well. Pity some of the World Cup lads can't be out here with us at the moment, but the young boys are going to get great experience being part of the trip.
All right, well, of course, you would know from a player's perspective and a coach's perspective that I'm sure not having some of the top players because of the World Cup is a difficulty. And we heard from Jose Mourinho that he's not too happy about that. How much does that throw the manager off?
Well, it does, because even in pre-season training, you want to get confidence going. You want to get the players playing together. But because half the squad is sort of missing with the experienced boys and your better players, it gets a little bit difficult. But like I say, the manager knows that that's going to happen in World Cup year. But what a great opportunity for the young boys to prove themselves to the manager.
Exactly. Any ones you want to see step into the forefront in the absence of some of the big names?
Well, I'd just like to see Martial just kick on and, have a really good season this season. He's got tremendous potential. If he can just add them few more goals to his game, then I think he could have a big part to play for Manchester United next season.
Well, a couple of the lads, of course, had a very good run at the World Cup, both for Belgium, France, we're talking about Paul Pogba as well, and even England too. So how do you think that helps the unit as a whole when they come back now for the next season?
Well, what those lads should come back with is full of confidence. You know, especially Paul Pogba winning the World Cup. You know, and I thought he had a very good competition, played really well. So Paul should come back in great form for next season. Lukaku, he's a goal scorer, so he's full of confidence and knows that he can score goals. So he'll come back. But then we've got Marcus Rashford and Jesse Lingard, both did well for England. So both of those lads should come back and really look forward to next season.
Well, you touched on Lukaku and him scoring goals. Can we make a bet right now? Do you see him possibly coming top scorer next season?
Well, you've always got Aguero around the corner, Harry Kane. But no, if United are quite dominant in games next season, then Lukaku's got a chance of being the top goal scorer in the Premier League.
Possibly one of the biggest criticisms from last season was the style of play, that it wasn't the free-flowing, exciting football that people want. Do you see that changing this season? Can they do it?
No, I think what happens is Jose Mourinho has got his style of play. He loves the team playing 4-3-3. He's had great success with it throughout the years. And so I think Jose will stay with that, but I do think it's up to the players as well. In that formation you can still express yourselves, and I think the lads have just got to express themselves and take it that little bit step forward where they don't get negative when they go in front, and they try to score more goals and just do the correct thing on a football pitch.
And what about Paul Pogba now? Because one thing that I know he was applauded for at the World Cup and his role in France was sort of a leadership role that he kind of took on just in the dressing room. Do you see him possibly moving into something like that for Manchester United? Yeah,
I've said before that I think Paul is captain material. He's just got to take a little bit more responsibility on the football pitch. But if he does take that responsibility on and matures that bit more, then he's got the ability to be the captain of Manchester.
Let's talk about England really quick, because we have to. I get, mixed reviews saying it was a successful World Cup. Some say at the end of the day it wasn't. Losing those 3 matches, it doesn't make it a successful World Cup. But what are your feelings on the whole thing and just the way in which English football is going?
I think Gareth Southgate did a great job. He got a good togetherness with the players. He brought a lot of young lads in who had to prove themselves, and they proved themselves to a certain degree really well. Hopefully we can have a few more young players come into the squad and just go that next step. But no, I thought against Croatia the first half was going really well, and if England had got the second goal, then I think they could have went on to win that game and play in the final. But we still need to defend that little bit better. I think that's what let England down in the end. We didn't keep the ball well enough in that semi-final, and we conceded goals which we shouldn't concede. But if we can improve on that part, I think it was a pretty successful World Cup.
Jeff Eggers took that invitation.
Took his money, didn't he?
Must have a big bank account.
Jeff Eggers took the invitation and has fined him $10,000.
$10,000?
And suspended him for 2 games, Brian. Is that fair?
I agree with the first part. I think that is definitely a red card. The other 2, first of all, he didn't just toe ball the thing away 15 yards.
He booted it.
He put it almost in the stands, which is a yellow card. You know that, and you could see he was upset. And then the backing in, compared backing into Justin Glad. Listen, defenders do that all the time to forwards, right? And a forward never gets the call. I personally think that is part of the game. If you're not going to call it one way, you don't call it the other. I think Justin Glad probably looks back on it and saying, listen, I should have stood up. And to Stevie's point, I'll tell you, if that was Mike Petke, not only was he standing up, but you're either getting a little bow in the back or you're getting something raked down your heel.
But,
yes.
But does the punishment fit the crime, Stevie? As someone
the 2 games, I think the 2 games is normal. I don't have a problem. But 10 grand.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And again, I wish somebody at MLS would actually sit down and go through what he said. Because obviously not all of it is correct.
Yep.
But if they actually take something from what he says, then they might actually learn something.
And if he'd have said it in a better manner, and he'd be more composed.
But it's after the game.
But you know, he's out of control.
And that's the thing.
You're asking your players to keep your discipline, keep your... The manager can't. He's kicking bottles and he's kicking the chair and having a tantrum on the side of the field. And you can't... Doesn't matter what the referee does. You can't behave like that as a manager.
Mike does a great job of getting his players behind him by doing stuff like that. And he'll go in there and say, yes, do not act.
So that's a ploy.
I think part of it is a ploy. I think also, he was reaching out to the league saying, this has got to change. I really like his point about referees, and maybe it's not after a game, but referees in MLS, if a call is made, they just say, go. Get out of here. I made the call.
It happens in every league. No league in the world where the referee come out and explain what their decisions are after the game.
After the game, no. But during the game, they do. And when a referee explains his decision during the game, he might get it wrong. And if he gets it wrong afterwards, I've had plenty of times when I was in England, and I'd say, you're going to have to check the tape. And they'd come back the next time I see him, and they'd say, you know what, you're right. Or if it was
that was Peter Walton, wasn't it?
No. But that people realize you're human. And if the referee explains that's the reason they made a decision, you sort of understand it a little more. And I actually even had a referee in England go, listen, I probably made a mistake. Have you been perfect this game? No. That ball you just lost, see?
Do you know, MLS has to take into account when they're going to find somebody like Mike or any other coach, that they're making them step in front of a microphone as soon as the game's over. So they can't just turn around, and it's okay. We all understand in the cold light of day that you can't do those sorts of things. But if you're actually pushing somebody and actually making them do it, because that's what they're doing, because if he says, I'm not speaking, they'll fine him for not speaking. So there has to be a little bit of common sense. 2 games, yes. 10 grand's a ridiculous fine.
My view is that too many managers, too many coaches want to hide away from their team's performance by having a go at somebody else, usually the referee. And that's the thing that drives me mad. I don't want to hear about what their thoughts on the referee are. I want to hear about their team. Why have they lost the game? What did they do wrong tactically? Why weren't they able to score goals? Let's put the manager under pressure that way, not about the referee.
This doesn't happen every week. Come on, and 90% of the time, I agree with you.
In England,
but this doesn't happen every week. But when it does happen, it happens for a reason. Because this is not just one game that Mike Pecky's going crazy about. This builds up in you. It builds up and builds up from week to week, and eventually you explode.
It's become an annual event for Mike Pecky, particularly. Almost exactly a year ago, you can set your watch by it, can't you? It was the fax machine last year, and all the exact.
It's an accumulation of decisions.
And you're speaking from experience here.
Yes.
You had a microphone.
Absolutely. And I got suspended for it.
You get fined?
That's a surprise.
Absolutely, it did. But the most important thing is...
It wasn't 10 grand, was it?
Nothing changed.
I know
none of the criticisms that I made, and certainly the criticisms that Mike is making there, nothing will change. That's the bit that's the worst for me. At least take something on.
Don't forget to click subscribe.